Hey there, Alan Matthews here, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at musical form. What is it? Why does it matter? How will it help you in your playing? And also we're going to take a look at some of the most common musical forms that you will encounter in your music. So let's get going. Well, to start with, let's take a look at how music is put together. So we start off with notes. We just have individual notes. And we can put those notes together into bits. And we can put those bits into phrases, and we can put those phrases into big sections. And so once we get big sections, we can put those sections together into an entire piece. We have multiple sections, we put them together, it's an entire piece. And this is true whether it's classical music or folk music or anything in between. This is how music works. We can also take those full pieces, put them together into groups, and have a suite or a song cycle. What musical form is, at a broad level, is the order of sections. So we've got our notes and bits and phrases and sections and pieces, all these different levels of size, right? Well, form is the study of sections, whereas just the form of the piece is how do the sections go together. At a broad level, that's what form is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at some of the most common forms. Then we'll take a look at how you can actually decide what is the form and how to use it in your practice. So to begin with, one of the most common forms is the binary form, and this is just A, B, B. And this piece that we were just looking at here, this is an A, B, B. We just have a very large section up top. This is the A section, this is the B section. We repeat each. This is A, this is B. And we just can repeat each A, B, B. And that is the order of the sections. The next is ternary. So then we have the A section, then the B section, then we come back and play the A section again. And it might be a little bit different on the end. There might also be some repeats in here. We may have a repeat on the A or the B as well. Rondo form is where we have a main A section, and then we have a B section, then we come back to the A, then we have a different section, the C section, then we come back to the A. You can have a million of these, but you're always coming back to the A section. Play the A section, go do something else, come back, come home. The arch form is we start moving and we keep moving. We have A, then B, then C, then we come back to B until we kind of back out of the room. We walk in forward, and then we back out the way that we came. A, B, C, B, A. Strophic form is how most songs that you would sing are put together. Verse, chorus, verse, chorus. And the verse is going to always have the same melody, but the words will change. And probably the chorus will be the same every time. But the verse is the same notes, maybe a little bit of variation in the rhythm if you're going to add a note with an extra syllable somewhere. But it's basically the same melody rhythm with different words over it. You might also have a bridge in there or something like that. But strophic is the song. If you put a few of these together, you can have a medley. And this is, just putting different pieces together. So if I had a Beatles medley, then I would have, however many different songs from the Beatles, I would play them. Now within each of these, you might have a verse and a chorus or a bridge. You might have different sections that go into these, but on a large scale, it's this, then this, then this, then this. It doesn't come back and repeat. So that brings us to the sonata form, and the sonata form is the Mac Daddy of all Western music forms. It's basically just a ternary form, an ABA, but as you can see by this little prime right here, the A is different on the way back, and also each of these sections are greatly enhanced. So the A section, it's much longer. There might be multiple themes. The B section gets really crazy and goes into all different directions, and the A section comes back and is much changed as well. They have different names. It's instead of A, B, and A, we call them the exposition, the development, and the recapitulation. You don't have to know that. But the sonata form is it's a great big form. So more elaborate, bigger pieces, kind of a heavyweight form. Well, now let's talk about how to identify the sections, because that's ultimately what we need to do to be able to figure out our form. We need to be able to identify what is a different section. One way is by looking for bar lines. Whenever you see a repeat sign, that's a good sign that you'll probably have a section ending. Also, a new section, a double bar is going to be section ending. A regular bar line, those are all over the place, and that's probably not going to do it for you. The final bar line is obviously going to tell us that it's the end of the piece, so that's going to be the end of a section, unless there is our next way to identify, which is navigation. And these are directional tools that we will find in music. So whenever we have a first to second ending, we have a go to the coda, go back to the beginning, and DC is the go back to the beginning and play until you see something. With the fine or whenever you see anything like this, that's probably going to tell you that there is a section ending right there. So you can look for those as well. The next way is that you can look for contrasting material. Here we have Just You Joy of Man's Desiring. And to begin with, for these first few lines, we just have notes and notes and notes and notes constantly, but then we all of a sudden have these long notes right here. I know this is really small. We have this big section of long notes. Well, you can just glance through your music, and if there's anything glaring, if you find some new material, you were having very short note values, and now you have very long, anything like that, you can just look for, and then you might be on the trail of a section at that point. You can also do is just listen. You can just listen to the music and say, where does this naturally come to where does it change? Where does one thing stop and another thing begin? So those are the four main ways that you can look for sections. Another way is to understand the harmonic analysis and how the chords work together. But that's a little bit more advanced. And so to begin with, I would just stick with these four. As an example, let's just take a look at this piece. There's a little waltz by Carulli. One of the things that we can look for is our bar lines. Well, at the end of each of these bar lines, there's a repeat sign. So already we can say, okay, well, there are our sections, right? We can label these sections. This is A, B, C, and D, because each line repeats. Each line is its own thing. So to begin with, we just have A, B, B, because they repeat, C, C, D, D. Well, then we have this down here, DC al fine, which means go back to the top and play till you see the fine. So that means go to the A section again. We typically don't do repeats once we do come back to the top. And then we have the B, because here's our fine. So our form for this one is A, B, B, C, C, D, D, A, B. Now this doesn't exactly fit into our scene that we were doing, or any of our main forms that we talked about. However, if you thought about these two lines together as one bigger section, and then these two together as a bigger section, then you would have an ABA section. So you would have the ternary. Now to zoom out, oftentimes with forms, you can zoom out and have just a broad form, and then you can zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, and with each one. So within a section, you may have mini sections. Within a phrase, you may have the bits, smaller phrases. So there's all the different levels that we can look at this. 30,000, 15,000, 5,000, 1,000 right on the ground. From all these different elevations, we can look at the music. So why does knowing the form matter? Now that you can find the form of your piece, why does this even matter? Well, it informs the decisions that you make. So if you know the basic game plan of where you're going to go, you can make musical decisions based on that knowledge. So, for instance, if you know you have to walk 10 miles, then you probably won't sprint for the first mile because you know you're going to be tired for the rest of it. Well, the exact same thing holds true for pieces. If we know that we've got this piece and the big form is A, B, 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 blah, 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 then this is not going to be the pinnacle, the ultimate part of the piece. We're not going to make this the big moment because it's right at the very beginning, and then what's the rest of the piece going to do? So we can mold our piece, we can save, we can build up to things, knowing that, okay, I've got a long way to go. I'm going to be coming back to this again. Also, when we do come back to it again, we can say, how am I going to do it? Am I going to play it the exact same as I did before? Or am I a different person now that I have gone through this, now that I've listened to this music? And so then this is home. I've heard this material before. I might do it differently this time based on that. It can also then lead to how you practice. And if you know the form, so for this, when we have our ABC sections, ABCD sections, well, we can practice in these sections. So we wouldn't just go through the whole piece over and over and over again. We could really focus in on one section and practice that and really work out the bugs of that. And the next one. It can also help in memorizing, because then we can organize the material in our mind better. Instead of just a whole page full of notes, it's, in this case, 4 distinct sections. We could even look at it as well from this point and say, well, each of these is a phrase within that. So each section, once we know the form and how it's put together, then we can think, okay, this is the first half of section 1, second half of section 1, or section A. And we can memorize more easily. We can also practice more easily with it. And like I was saying, we can make our musical decisions. If we think of music as storytelling and the sections as chapters and whole pieces as books, and books in the series are suites, and the phrases are the paragraphs, we can look at that and say, well, how do I want to connect this? If I know that I'm going to play this A section twice, I'm going to go through it and go through it again, then what do I do here? If I come to a slow stop every single time, and we can just look at this and say there's a long note at the every one. If we do that over and over, then it's going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts, and it's just going to drain the energy, and the listener's not going to enjoy that. Any particular one may be beautiful in itself, but as a whole, it's not going to work, because we need to just keep this moving. We need to keep things moving. So you can base your expressive decisions on your knowledge of the form as well. So here's a challenge for you. In your existing pieces, and the pieces that you're already playing, go back and look at the different sections and label them, and then figure out the form of the entire piece. Is it ABA? Is it AABB? What kind of piece is it? What's the form? You don't have to know the exact name of this is binary and this is ternary. You don't have to do that, but it does help to just write up at the top, what is the form? That way you know, and then you can let that inform your practice and your musical decisions. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this little foray into form, and please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you again soon.